Hello and welcome to Tucson, Arizona. I'm Randy. So I was never going to make this channel like a political channel. I was just going to make it a, kind of a loose interview style, hang out with my friends, give me a really good reason and excuse to like basically kidnap my friends for a couple hours and hang out and talk to them. And I got a lot of interesting friends that have done a lot of interesting things. At least I think they're very interesting guys. But for the second time in 2 months, the former president of the United States has had an attempt on his life. Now, this time wasn't as close to success as the first time, but it doesn't change the fact that July 14th, the man was shot. And then today, September 15th, so 2 months and a day, there was a gunman on his golf course. What is wrong with the world today? That's what I'd like to know. The whole damn world's gone crazy. I am a conservative Christian, so I am the devil in the eyes of the left. Plus, I'm a straight white man and a Christian. So just I've got all the strikes against me. But when I was growing up, now I'm 38, so when I was growing up all throughout the 90s, no one cared. No one cared about your politics. Your identity wasn't based on politics. No one cared. Um, like, for example, my dad was a skydiver my entire childhood up until I think I was like 20, maybe early 20s, the last time he jumped. But he's got a couple thousand jumps. I mean, he did it for, man, like 18 years, almost 20 years. Like, jumped forever. Big deal. On a drop zone, I find that a lot of people don't really know much about drop zone. People like skydive once and they make a big deal and they get the video and that's it. But when you grow up as a kid at the drop zone, there's not a lot of kids, but occasionally there'd be other ones. So I hung out with a lot of adults. My dad had a vast group of friends. He's a friendly guy. He loves to laugh, and he was all about that life. He was raising three kids on his own, and the only thing he got to do outside of work and pay bills was skydive. So we'd spend all weekend out at the drop zone. Every holiday that there was a special jump, he was jumping. 4th of July, he'd do the fun jumps with all the flares and everything. New Year's Eve, he'd be doing the midnight jumps with all the glow sticks and everything. It's a really cool environment to grow up in. A lot of free people. Like, skydiving is like being a biker. Like, I'm a biker, so there's nothing freer than just hauling ass down a freeway, hearing nothing but the wind. And there's nothing freer than falling free fall 120 miles an hour with nothing but the wind. There's nothing louder in your life, and there's nothing quieter in your life. There's nothing more peaceful. The most peace I've ever had was free fall. So growing up, he had all these friends. He did formation diving, so he's part of a lot of teams. And he had friends of every spectrum. I mean, there were hippies there, these old school deadheads that had traveled the world skydiving. There was one dude that skydived every state in the country, including Alaska and Hawaii. Skydived every province of Hawaii, or of Canada, sorry. And I think he had jumped on every continent. And he had his old motorcycle, and he had the chains because he traveled with that bike. He had it shipped wherever he was going. He had all the chains he had gone through on those trips, and he had the license plates that he had registered in all those places. And they had a giant board on the wall. That dude was like a hippie gypsy. And then you had, left-leaning political types, people that were in local political action movements and stuff. You had attorneys on both sides of the aisle. There was everything, all walks of life. And my dad was friends with all of them. Politics never mattered. No one ever talked about it. It didn't matter. Like, my dad didn't vote for Clinton, couldn't stand Clinton. Half the people there liked Clinton, the other half didn't. They were still friends. None of it mattered. You could have a conversation, but there was never really much of a debate. And the economy was still good enough that no one hated each other, but identity politics wasn't a thing. Now we've got identity politics. I've got some friends on the left, And I've got some friends that are like, I would consider them far left, but they would consider me far right. I consider myself a libertarian for the most part. I want personal freedoms. Like, you want to be gay, that is your choice. I've got nothing but love for you as a human. I'm a Christian. I've got no beef. Don't harm children. Like, and I know that's stereotypical, and I don't mean it to sound hateful, but I mean, I've known some dudes that liked them young, and I've known some people that are doing time for that. So don't hurt people. Be a consenting adult with other consenting adult, and I don't care what you do. There's some really good friends of mine that are lesbian couples. I love them to death. They don't agree with me on my politics, but that's their prerogative. Like, I disagree with their politics, but I've got nothing for love for them as people. Like, I would do anything for them. I've crashed at their house. Like, we've partied together. I was at their bachelorette party, which was awesome because I was the only guy there. But like, I don't have beef. Live your life. Your life is yours to live. Just don't hurt anybody else. But right now, it seems like the left are so wrapped up in their identity politics that it doesn't matter. A one-time president is the most evil person they've ever heard of. When in actuality, the man did more for people that he's being accused of hating than any other president in history. And even if you don't like that and don't agree with it, and you think that that's wrong, you think it's a false flag or it's lying or whatever, that's your prerogative, man. Like, believe what you want, because that's the age we're in. Facts don't matter anymore. The fact of the matter is, you shouldn't be trying to shoot people for any reason. Like, it's an unnatural thing to do. People fetishize this stuff, and it's like, what? We mourn the loss of all these children, and the left wants to take away all the Second Amendment rights, get rid of them because of all these children. Meanwhile, the same people who don't want 2A to exist want the government to not only be in charge of who's allowed to get smorshman, but they also want it to get paid for by the taxpayers, and they think it should be free for all. And they don't believe that there should be rules and regulations on what happens and when these embryos are able to be flushed down a drain. Like, so you're not okay with certain actions, but you're okay with other actions that are all considered the same thing. They all fall under the umbrella of schmurder. They're all the same thing. It's just a different age changes. Like, these are the same people that are also okay with youth in Asia. Those young people in Asia. They're okay with that up in Canada. They're trying to actually kind of push it on people. So it's like this weird age group that is okay to delete, and then not okay, and then okay again. Well, how about none of it? Or all of it? It should be one or the other. You shouldn't be able to pick and choose when you can delete. You just press the delete key on a life. That's not okay. Like, now I know I'm the far right crazy guy who doesn't think it's okay, but it's not. Every life lost is a tragedy. Like, doesn't matter. And we've got people out here celebrating these attempts on a former sitting president. And you got people crying and losing their minds when it was missed. How is that okay? Now flip the roles. Let's say a crazy right-wing crazy person tried this with the guy who's on the beach all the time and doesn't know where the hell he is right now because he's been in office for 3.5 years, but has been out to lunch for about 9 years, and they knew it when he got put in office. And now we've got someone who got 0 votes, got no votes, but she's running. So now reverse it. Some crazy nut job takes an attempt at her or the crazy ice cream man. Would it still be okay then? would people still be cheering it on? And would you see right-wing Christians crying because of the mist? No. We'd be calling it a freaking tragedy, and we'd be calling it a crime, and we'd be outraged that someone took an attempt on someone else's life. Like, it's not okay either way. In either direction, from either side of the aisle, it's not okay. Now, why is it that the side that calls themselves the side of understanding and acceptance and all this other crap are the least understanding and accepting people I've ever even met? They don't accept me. I'm a criminal. Like, I'm a crazy person in their eyes. For what? Like, you're allowed to have your opinions. I'm allowed to have mine. We can disagree. I have a lot of friends on the left. And for my part, we're friends. My wife and I were hanging out with a friend yesterday who's, I'd say she's a moderate. She's not the most politically minded person. She's not that interested, generally speaking. But she's one of these one policy people. Now, she's a lovely person. I've known her for a long freaking time. She's married to my best friend. She was asking about Trump's standing on Smorshmans. And I had to explain to her, he doesn't have an opinion. He got it out of the government's hands and put it in the state's hands, which is where it belongs. And she was like, oh, okay. I was like, and then I explained, he's okay with, the grape and incest and, health of the mother, like, policy. He's okay with, those are the times that he agrees that it's a thing that should be an option. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. But I had to explain it to her because the media paints Trump out to be this insane, I'm going to follow you around once you're pregnant. And if I find out you went to a doctor, ooh, no, man, he doesn't care. He was a Democrat for like 50 years, 60 years. He was donating to the Clintons all the time. The guy's a businessman. He only cares about money. He cares about making this country rich again. And I was certainly richer when he was in office. Like, the man is flawed. He's got flaws, as we all do. But if you can accept flaws from a friend or a family member, like, why couldn't you look past some flaws in somebody else? Like, it's my calling as a Christian to be understanding and not to judge people of this world. See, non-believers, people that don't know much about my faith, think that, oh, you're a hypocrite if you judge anybody. It's like, well, you've never read the book. You've heard slogans from people over your lifetime and you think you understand. No, the Bible clearly states that I am not to judge people of this world. I am not supposed to judge people that live of the world. I am not of this world. I believe in a higher power. I believe in a stronger walk. I believe in atoning for my sins, and I believe in trying to love every human, period. I am called to love the sinner and hate the sin, not hate the sinner. I don't have hate in my heart for anybody. I've got distastes and I've got dislikes, but I don't hate anybody. I don't harbor hate for anybody. And I try not to think about someone else's sins because I've got my own. Your sins aren't my problem. Now, I'm supposed to try to help teach you to live a Christian life and hopefully bring you to the understanding and maybe pick up a Bible and read for yourself and maybe hopefully someday accept Christ for yourself. But your sins are not my burden. Now, I will gladly pray with anybody and try to lighten that load and try to carry, some of that weight with you. But it's not my concern to think about what you got going on in your life and what decisions you're making. Like, that's for you. So I don't judge people for that. Now, I might disagree with somebody in the way they're living and decide I don't want anything to do with them. And that's my prerogative. And it's your prerogative to disagree with me and not want to hang out with me and not want to be my friend or whatever. And you can hate me, and that's fine. But one policy voters, that's an issue, generally speaking. It means you're not paying attention to the big picture of what's going on in this country and where this country can go. And it can go away. They're attacking the petrodollar right now, and they're actively trying to cripple this nation financially. And if that happens, we're done. We are no longer relevant as a nation. Yeah, we might still exist, but that's it. No more help to Ukraine, no more help to Palestine, Israel, none of that. All that goes away. If we lose all of our financial power, we're done. And the person in office right now has been supporting the weakening of the petrodollar. Facts. You can look it up. There's lots of other people way smarter than me with a bigger voice than me talking about it. Like, if our financial system collapses, we are done. Now, this is why we should have stayed on a gold-backed standard, but it was before I was born. So all I can do is look back retroactively and wish we'd done things a little differently. But read policies, please. Get out there, do your own research. Don't watch CNN, don't watch Fox News, don't watch either side. I don't watch any of them. Do your own research. Do some deep dives, do some independent research. Find out what policies these people stand for. Because there are two very different possible outcomes, and it's a choose your own adventure right now. You can choose the side of Trump, and you can look past. If you're one of those people that don't like the mean tweets, personally, I think they're hilarious. But you can decide to let that be the reason you decide to vote a different way and watch everything you love disappear. You can watch prices of everything continue to climb. Like, I've got 3 trucks that I don't drive because it's too damn expensive in fuel. Now, it's my choice for having big American trucks with big American engines and superchargers and things like that. But I continue to vote for someone who keeps prices of fuel low. I've got a family, and I've got big eaters in my family. I know it's hard to tell, but I'm 240 pounds. I eat a lot. I lift a lot. I eat a lot. I've got 2 teenage boys, and then my stepson living here, and they all eat a lot. My oldest son is almost my size, and fortunately my youngest is into bodybuilding, not strongman, so he stays lighter, but he still eats high protein foods. Like, so beef right now, yesterday we went grocery shopping, beef for 10 pounds was $45 for 10 pounds. Like, you just can't afford to eat. Can't afford to have our normal diet, so I'm having to change up our diets. We're having a lot more turkey, which, yeah, some would argue is a lot healthier for you, but when you're trying to stay a certain weight and you've got certain numbers you need to be reaching as far as protein levels, like, turkey's good, but it's faster burning. It's leaner. I need some more of that fat, but I still buy 90/10, so I don't have as much fat. Plus, the beef doesn't shrink as much. But anyways, this is what I do here. I just ramble. But you need to, like, really research the policies. Research what these people are saying now versus what they were saying 4 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And in some cases, you can look at, like, Kamala, you can look at her voting history. You can go online and YouTube search what she's been saying about literally any policy that matters to you. All of the policies matter to me, so I take them all into account. But then you need to, once you have that information, and please understand, the Smorshman situation isn't up to the president. Not anymore. It's up to the state. So deal with it in your state. I'm in Arizona, so it's an issue in my state. Like, whatever whatever your issue is that you care about the most, research what these people have both been saying about it for the last 8 years. There is lots of research out there for you to do on your own that will net you all the information you want, and it's not BS. You can actually find the truth of what these people said from their own mouths, and you can see the history of what they've been saying for years. Like, you can go back and see if they've been consistent on a certain topic, or if they flip-flop all the time. If someone flip-flops on what their values are all the time, they have no values. They have no belief system. They don't actually care about what they're talking about. They're going based on the winds. Do you want a leader that is going to lead based on one of these numbers? Oh, which way are the winds, the political winds blowing? No, you want a strong leader. Now, you may not believe the same person is the strong leader that I believe, and that's fine. And that's why we have a voting system. But you need to vote. And after you've researched the issues, vote based on your values. Decide what person best aligns with you on each one of those items. And vote on your values. Don't vote on who's more popular and who your friends are voting for and who the Kardashians or insert celebrity here. What they say doesn't matter. Most of them will come out and say one person, and then they realize their tax dollars are getting depleted by the same person that they're out there speaking for. So secretly, they may not be a fan of that person. You got to remember, actors are actors. They're chameleons. They're going to say whatever is convenient for them to say at the time. What's going to affect my next movie role? What's going to next? Hell, Jack Black just went through this. His idiot friend said an idiot thing, and he had to. He didn't choose. His tour was ended, and it wasn't his choice. And he quickly realized, oh no, I've got all these movies coming out. Will I continue to get movies if I continue to be tied to stupid things like this? Will I continue to sell movies if I'm acting like this? Is that my career over? So he changes how he feels. Now, he for sure doesn't like Trump. Like, he was out there wearing that stupid American flag outfit for Joe Biden. He doesn't have, his values are himself. He only cares about himself. Jack Black's all out there for the money. Doesn't care about any of us. Why would you vote based on what someone you've never met is saying? Do you know the first thing about any of these celebrities? Have you met them in person? Have you broke bread with them? No. Maybe ask someone who you trust who has done the research, or do the research for yourself, and hopefully you trust your own instincts. Do that. But to circle back on all of this ranting I'm doing, why is it okay to take someone else and delete them? When is it okay? In my opinion, it's never okay. And if you're of the opinion, well, I take that back. There are a few people that harm children that I believe deleting them slowly and painfully is okay. But otherwise, just because you disagree with them, like, what world would we be left with if everyone who disagreed with each other was just out and deleting? Like, I'm a grumpy bastard. There was lots of times where I was like, man, I sure wish this was the old West, where I can just, I grew up right down the street from Tombstone. There was an awful lot of high noons going on there. Why can't we bring that back? So, but that's not the way to do it. That's not the proper way to go through life. I know that. I may not always like it, but I know it. But politics, man. Over politics, you'd be willing to, throw part of your soul away? For all the Harry Potter fans out there, I am one. I got the hollows right there. It's a Horcrux, man. You're splitting off your soul. You remember what he had to do to break off his soul? Like, it changes somebody, ruins somebody. Like, we're not meant to do that. Whether you believe in what I believe in or not, everyone knows that fractures you as a human. We weren't meant to do that to each other. Like, we weren't put here for that. And whether again, I believe We weren't put here for that. But even if you don't believe that, do you have a conscience? Does your conscience ever bother you when you screw someone over, when you cut someone off in traffic, or when you bring harm to someone else? Does it ever play back? 10 years down the road, are you sitting in traffic and just think of some mistake you made in the past and just feel this knot of guilt for something you did that you've atoned for, but like that little demon's creeping up in there saying stuff to you? Like, if you feel the way I feel, this is a problem. And there's a problem, like, for our generation. This is stuff that's going to come back and haunt us. Every generation, man, people look back on and decide what was good and what was bad. They're going to look back at this time and go, what the hell? If we're still a nation in 30 years, kids are going to be looking back on, what the hell happened? What was a summer of love where there was no love? It was all hatred and animosity and tearing down statues and burning down private property and people taking over towns with AK-47s. Like, I can't own a fully automatic AK, and they had 8 fully automatic AKs in the hands of felons. Like, what the hell is going on? All these freaking massacres happening in schools. What's causing all this? Could it possibly be the hatred and the rhetoric that the media and social media has been pushing upon everybody? Like, if you're watching this and you don't align with how I align, I'd bet money we agree on probably 80% of everything we could talk about. Maybe more, but for the like ultra far, there's a wider gap there, but I'd say we still probably agree on most things. I believe in certain social services that should be out there to provide help for people. I believe that we need to bring back mental institutions. And I don't mean in the way that they used to be used where people were being harmed and abused. I mean, there are people out there by the droves right now that need help, that need doctors, they need medicine. And instead, they're dropping dead left and right on blues. Like, that's a tragedy. And that's a tragedy that could easily be avoided. But instead, we're sending money overseas. Why? We should be spending money here at home. We've got a place here in Tucson called 100 Acre Wood. 100 Acre Wood is a big desert piece of property, and we've got thousands of people there constantly. TPD comes in, flushes them out, and by the weekend, they're back. And they've got trucks and cars, and they're flying flags, and it's crazy, man. But these are people that need help. I'd say conservatively, half of them have mental instability issues. Like, my brother is bipolar schizophrenic. He's got freaking issues, and he furthered those problems with drug use and alcohol abuse. So he's got some issues. He needed help. He's found help. There's been help. But there have been times where he needed help and there was no help to find because our government systems suck. Well, I think we need to get rid of privatized prisons. Like, there's a lot of things that I probably agree with most of the people who consider themselves left. Why can't we talk about it? I'm capable. I can hear someone out. And then at most, I disagree. Like, at the worst comes to worst, I go, man, I disagree with you. I don't think that's best. And that's it. I don't get all angry, hot, and bothered and want to throw fists. Like, no, man. It's like, no, dude, I disagree with you. I think you're wrong. And then you can tell me how I'm wrong, and then whatever, conversation over. But it doesn't need to be this crazy, insane, name-calling garbage. My kids are both half Hispanic. I've been called racist a lot, mostly because I've always gotten rid of my hair. Like, no, man, like, not racist. Like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's just a simple name game, because if you can try to call me a name and stunt what I'm saying with some nonsense, some childish, like, third grade thing. It's like, okay, so you're going to end a conversation like that instead of having a conversation like an adult? Like, I'm a high school dropout. If you can't have a conversation with me on a collegiate level, you're the problem. because I've done a lot of reading. I only dropped out because I had to start working because I got a girl pregnant. Like, and I raised the kid. he's in the house right now, cleaning his room. Like, and he's got a job full time, working tons of hours, graduated early, like pays all his own bills. He's a contributing member of society, learning how to deal with taxes and car insurance and all that other fun stuff that he pays for. Like, he still lives in my home, pays me rent. He still does dishes, still does all of his own stuff, takes care of his own stuff, but he's not looking for handouts. So if I could do that, like, have a conversation with me like a normal person. Hell, half the people that disagree with me have a college degree. Let's talk. You should be able to talk circles around me. I'm a dumb knuckle dragger. Like, I'm a caveman. Hell, I barely understand how to set up most of these electronics I own, and I paid a lot of money for all these electronics. Like, should be pretty easy to stymie me with something, and the only argument I ever get is calling me a racist or a bigot or whatever. It's like, no. First off, being a phobe means you're afraid. I ain't afraid of nobody. Like, and I'm not being some internet tough guy. You don't frighten me. Like, my wife used to sell beer. Guess which company she worked for? Yeah, the one that's not doing so well and they lost a lot of money. She left right after all the nonsense started, and as their profits started going, she was like, nope, I'm out. And now she sells wine for a living and is much happier and doesn't have to deal with all the nonsense. But when she was selling beer, we'd have to go do all of these handouts and swag, Super Bowl stuff, whatever, Mardi Gras, which is hilarious because I grew up in Galveston, Texas, and Mardi Gras is a thing there. Here, no one even knows what the hell it is, but people still hand out beads. It's kind of funny. But every big event, 4th of July, whatever, we'd go hand stuff out. Well, she had a bunch of gay bars. So I've been at all the gay bars in town. Done a lot of events at gay bars. I've got friends that own a gay bar here in town, and they are good dudes. They are really good guys. Like, we invited them to our wedding. Like, and somehow people call me a phobe sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you don't know me. Like, I've got friends all over the place. I've lesbian friends, gay friends, like Mexican friends, black friends, white friends. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you're not a D-bag, I'm cool to hang out with you. Like, and like, so we need to stop with all the damn name calling, man. Like, if you don't know someone, stop being childish and labeling them with something so ridiculous. Like, people I don't know, I don't call them by names. I wait to find out. And if I just don't like you based on your mannerisms or whatever, I just stop talking to you. I'm not hanging out with you. We're nobody. We're not friends. We're not buddies. We're not acquaintances. We're nothing. Like, I drop people like a hot rock all the time. But I don't call people names. But one side of the aisle seems to be really cool with doing that. Like, so these are things that matter. Like, values. My values don't align with one person running in this race. It's that simple. Like, and then I go down the policy. But I know the policies. I pay attention to this stuff. I follow this stuff, unfortunately, really close. Trust me, I wish I could just shut my brain off, not follow politics at all, and just watch car shows like I like, and watch strongman competitions, and watch all this other stuff. And strongman seems to be the last sport where the nonsense hasn't collided in on it. And I think it's because when you've got a dude who's 6'5", 400 pounds, there's not a lot of women who are 6'5", 400 pounds. And there's not a lot of dudes who are willing to transition and be a woman and come in against these really badass women that are lifting. Because there are some amazing women. I've met a lot of the top female strong women. So it's strongman is the sport. So please don't think I'm trying to be anything that I'm not. The strongman female athletes are next level, and they are awesome. And I've met a lot of them. Now, I haven't been able to meet a lot of the European women, but I'm a big freaking fan. Like Donna Moore, I call her God of War. That woman's a beast, and she is a multiple world's strongest woman. I'm a fan of big, strong women. And people will call me sexist sometimes. I'm like, you don't know me, all right? My wife has got all kinds of swag signed. When I go through to these events, like I've got flags that at some point will hang up behind me. I've got flags signed by like the top dudes on the planet, and I've got women signing them too. I've got hats with tons of different people. I mean, I've met Sam Beliveau a ton of times now, and her and Maxime Boudreau are like my favorite strong couple because they're both athletes. They own their own gym up in Canada. Mel Peacock, the woman's a freaking beast. My wife and I have hung out with her a ton too. Like, these are amazing people. Don't label someone you don't know. It's lazy, it's weak, and almost always it's inaccurate. And I'm sure I'll get comments saying something stupid about me, and I really don't care. Call me what you want, but like, have more self-respect and maybe learn a better insult. Like, I've been a construction worker my entire life since I was 15 years old. There's not one thing you can say that's going to offend me or hurt my feelings. I've got really thick rhino skin. Say what you want, man. Like, I've heard it all. But like, let's just stop. Let's stop. Let's grow up. Stop with the nonsense, man. And I know this isn't going to make a dent in anyone else's views of the world, but I wish I could say that it would. Like, just coming out and saying, hey, man, knock it off. How about let's start talking and listening to what someone else has to say instead of trying to spray lead in someone else's direction because you were led to believe by a talking head that you've never met on TV who gets paid millions of dollars a year to say ridiculous things that someone else told them. They're just parrots. Half the time, these guys don't even know what the hell they're talking about. They just go, oh, and in today's news, so-and-so is a racist. It's like, Obama started the border wall. Obama built the cages. Trump took the heat for those cages. Kamala Harris was calling him all these crazy things, saying all these things. She was the border czar. I know she's trying to separate herself from that now, but we had 3.5 years, well, a little over 3 years technically, of them calling her the border czar. You're going to let your own lying eyes and lying ears deceive you, I guess, if you believe that was, oh no, if you're going to simp for, oh no, she was part of this one area, she was in charge of, no, she was supposed to be coming to the border, and I live in a border town, and she never came here. I live, 40 minutes from Nogales? Like, me and my buddies used to ride our bikes to the border, have tacos, and ride back. Like, takes nothing. And if you're really moving on a bike, it doesn't take long at all to get out there. But, like, come on, man. Just vote with your values. Please get out there. Learn what the issues are. Learn what all the issues are. Try not to be one of those people that only vote based on one thing. And if it is the one thing, are you really willing to pay the consequences if you're wrong? Like, really think about it. Are you really willing to send our kids to war again? Because if one party gets in office, they're all war hawks. They've been ramping up war. And even though they keep saying we don't have a single American troop over there in war. No, that's not true. And all it is a stage for a war to ramp up. Because if the one party gets in office, they've convinced enough people that Russia is the bad guy right now, even though if you do your research, Ukraine was never allowed to be part of NATO. And Ukraine kicked off this conflict. It's Ukraine's fault. I'm tired of seeing blue and yellow flags. This video will probably get flagged because of everything that I'm saying, and that's fine. I'll have to do editing. But the blue and yellow flag started this conflict, and for some reason the red and yellow flag are the bad guys. If the red and yellow really wanted to wipe out the blue and yellow, they would. All right? How many nations have nukes in the world? They're one of them, and they've had them for a really long time. They've got the button. Do we really want that war to happen? Like, I'm looking at lives lost and the potential for lives lost, and it doesn't seem like one side of the aisle is really thinking about all of that. You remember that forever war that we just wrapped up, and it was a total crap show when it did. Do we want that again? Because that's what'll happen. I've got friends that were directly affected by that, and because I was a freaking dropout, I didn't get to join the Marines like I was going to. So I didn't. But my kids are both thinking about signing up. Like, my oldest wants to be an MP. I'm not really sure what my youngest wants. He used to want to be a frogman, and now he wants to be a Marine. So I don't know. I might wind up having 2 boys be jarheads. Like, and I love our troops, and I would love for my boys to both be in the military, but under one president, neither one of my boys will enlist. And yet at the debate earlier this week, she was trying to call out him for not supporting our troops and not being a fan of our troops. You weren't there. You didn't go to the cemetery and say all their names and meet with the 13 families, and you weren't invited. So which side did they want there, and which president were they supporting? I think our military, by and large, backs one person, and it's the person who isn't going to send them to war, and it's the person that took really damn good care of them. Because under one president before him, he was gutting our military forces, and he was lowering their pay. And I had a lot of friends that were in the. I had a friend that was an MP at the time during the change movement and the hope movement, and her pay kept decreasing every year to the point where she could no longer afford to be an MP, and she retired instead of re-enlisting and got a job as a police officer and started making money again. Like, vote with your values, do the research, stop supporting people that are actively backing violence in the streets.